Hey everybody, it's Christina from Creations with Christina, and I've been asked to share some of my sewing tips and tricks for paper crafting. And I thought what I would do is, I'm not going to go through the whole process of threading my machine or anything like that. I thought I would just give you a couple of tips that I have for sewing on your projects. First thing I wanted to do is maybe just show you a couple that I've done recently. You probably remember this from a Stampin' On Friday episode. I like to call this the crazy stitch. This is usually when I start off really good and get distracted and it starts going crazy, and then I just kind of incorporate it and keep going with another crazy stitch. So that was one thing you can do, and it adds a great detail to your cards and to even your scrapbook pages. I've even used it on layouts. This is one that I've done one going straight across the border, and then I have one going down the bottom, and then I also did it going right around the outside edge of my layout. So it does add nice little detail. This is another one I've done of, I put a border going down the middle. It actually made it look like stitched ribbon, but this is just a piece of paper that I did the sewing on. And then I took the circle, which is my title of my page, and did the sewing going around the circle part. So it does add a nice little detail to your project. I'm even using it on Project Life. One of the hottest things now is to just add a single stitch line going right across a word. So this is one of my Project Life cards, and I just did a single stitch going across, I did a stitch going around the outside, and then I just added some where my different pattern papers meet. So you can incorporate it into Project Life. You can also do a little bit more detailed. You can incorporate where you're doing a zigzag stitch, like I did with this card that I posted on my blog last week rather. And I created this kind of wave line in two different pattern papers, sewed them together using this really thin zigzag stitch, and then I did a single stitch going right around the outside. So it adds a really nice detail to your projects. I generally do a zigzag or a straight line. My sewing machine has tons of different features that I have never played with, only except for the regular stitch and the zigzag stitch. This sewing machine is the Brother CS6000i. I got it for Christmas from my husband and my son, and I love it. My other sewing machine was giving me a hard time. It didn't like me. And I happen to be very heavy with my foot in driving a sewing machine. So this one actually, it has where you don't have to use it. Comes with a pedal, a foot pedal, but you don't have to use it. There's actually the speed control, so I can go faster or slower, and there's operating. And I didn't think I would be able to do this, but actually it is so much easier than using the foot pedal. This is your going forward, to turn your machine on and off, so you don't have to use the foot pedal. A tip I do have for sewing is to get an extra needle. This one happened to come with an extra one, so I keep one for sewing on fabric and then one for sewing on my projects, because adhesive does get stuck and it does dull your blade, or I keep saying blade, your needle a little bit, the paper. So I would say have two separate ones, one for fabric and one for paper crafting. Another tip I have is I never change the color thread in my bobbin. I always just use a white thread, and that's just down here in the bottom. So I always keep white thread on my bobbin because that's what's underneath, and nobody really sees that anyway. So I guess you could say I'm a lazy lazy crafter, that I don't go and change my bobbin thread. It just is easier for me. This machine is super easy to thread. One feature I do love, it has a self threading needle, so that there's a little lever that comes down, you put your thread in and it pulls your thread right through the needle, the eye of the needle, so that's really easy to do. This specific sewing machine, the reviews I did read on it are fantastic. The only thing I did notice is that a couple people said use better quality sewing thread, so I started purchasing this sewing machine, sewing thread from Joann's called Gutterman. I think that's how you say it. And I get it when it's on sale. It comes in different size spools. I get the smallest spool, which is 110 yards. And whenever it's on sale, I'll pick up a couple spools. Usually they have 50% off, and I buy one or two at a time. And I just pick different colors. Eventually I'm going to have to start paying attention to what colors I'm buying, so I'm not double buying. And taking the thread off and changing out my color is so easy. It's just a couple simple steps and your sewing machine is threaded. So I thought I would just show you quickly. I'm just going to use some index cards because they're sitting right here. Some of my sewing with this machine, just so you can get an idea. Right now my bobbin is not threaded through, so I just have to kind of grab that real quick and pull it through. There we go. First, like I said, I've only used 2 stitches. I use my straight stitch and my zigzag stitch. So I usually set mine 0, 0, which is this one right here, and then I usually do a little bit of a wider stitch. So I set it at 5.0. Just put the lever down, and this is how easy this is. And I love that it goes so slow. At first when it was going slow, I thought this is going to take forever. But I've gotten brave now, and I can adjust the speed as I'm going. So when it first starts, like I said, it's going really slow, but you can adjust the speed so it's going a little faster. And then you just hit that button to stop it. It's really, really easy to use. There's also a little lever right here for picking the needle up. And then on the side here's a little blade, so you can just cut off your thread. So that's kind of the stitch I use. It's generally the little bit of a wider stitch. And you can see on the back I just used the white. My other thing I like to do is the zigzag. So I'm just going to pop this right back in here. I'm going to change this to number 4, which is the zigzag stitch, and then change my my stitch so it's a little bit closer and a little bit bigger. So that's the zigzag. My other sewing machine, like I said, I had an older one and I never really used it much, but it just kind of, I was extremely heavy with my foot. I couldn't control my speed very well, and that's what I like about this one is I can control the speed. I have several different designs I can pick from. Threading is super easy, and I just really love the detail that it gives to your projects. So I hope that answers some of your questions. Like I said, I have the Brothers CS6000i. I'll put a link to this over on my blog if you want to go check it out. I purchased this, like I said, back in December. My husband and son gave it to me for Christmas, and I think it was like $159. I have seen it for $199. It says that its retail value is $4.99, but I've never seen it less than I've never seen it more than $200. And there's also the Janome. I've never used the Janome, but I've heard good things about it. So I can't really give you any of my personal opinion on the Janome, but like I said, I have heard good things. So I hope that helped answer some questions. A couple of people had questions on using sewing on your projects. I hope that helped, and I'll see you next time.